Ladies and gentlemen, with me tonight, I have Stephen Lilinski. We had the pleasure of working on a movie together last fall titled Are You Worthy? It is set to release at some point this year. Stephen played the killer, and I had the fortunate luck of having a cameo scene with him in Are You Worthy? His kids actually got him into acting, and they were kind of nervous to do it themselves. So he said that he would do it and he fell in love with it instantly. Steve, if you could elaborate on your career a little bit.
Yeah, I started out doing musical theater mostly, and started doing other things in the theater realm. And then I had one show where I had a great cast I was working with, and they encouraged me to do more with acting. So I put myself out there. I researched how to get started, and I did. Started out doing background roles on television, and then got some film roles in independent films like Are You Worthy? And I've had a lot of success doing commercials. I've probably done 2 dozen of them by now,
Wow.
and it's just a lot of fun.
It seems like it. I've been following your progress on Instagram and Facebook, and you've been getting more and more roles every time I see your post.
Yeah, yeah. I try to remember to post them all, but sometimes you're going right from one to the other, and I forget to share it.
Kind of sits in the background a little bit for a bit, right?
Yeah, but then the cool thing is like a month later, sometimes a year later, the commercial or the film comes out and you get to share it again or for the first time.
If you don't mind first, I have some questions
Sure.
for you.
Absolutely.
What is it like working between film and advertisement? I was wondering about that since you were talking about that earlier. What is the difference between film and advertisement?
That's a great question. So, depending on the film, in general, films are more realistic. They're looking for a character, but they're not looking for something outlandish or over the top. It's very kind of low key, realistic acting. In my opinion, it's tougher for me at least. Commercials are somewhat salesy, that even a very straight, not over the top commercial has an element of sales to it. When I work on a commercial, one of the things that I've been taught is whenever you say the product name, it's sexy. Like no matter what your role you're playing, you cannot say the name of the product or the company and not have it sound sexy. Um, Yeah, so commercials are also usually not as much dialogue, not as much to memorize. A lot of times you're just kind of showing up and they'll feed you the line right before you need to say it, because it's 30 seconds or 15 seconds. It's not a lot in there, and a lot of times they'll be cutting. A lot of them you don't even have any lines. You're just there while an announcer is doing voiceover.
Wow. Do you have more fun on film or do you have more fun on advertisement?
At the moment, I'm having more success in advertisements, which
Okay.
is in and of itself fun. Um,
Okay.
my passion is more for film, looking for those roles that I can really get into that are, a couple days or weeks long, that I can really get into the character, spend some time with it, work on it, put forward my best performance. Um, that's what's more fun for me. But at the same time, it's not always fun. It can be a little grueling. You're there for a long time. There's a lot of setup and teardown between scenes. Commercials are in and out. They're rarely more than 8 hours to do a spot. But yeah, I hate to pick one over the other because they're both so much fun to do. But my heart's in film. That's where I look a little harder when I'm looking for roles.
I've been kind of dipping into the music industry of things a little bit, like
Hmm.
finding some musical talent, and I can kind of understand what you're saying there. It's kind of hard to pick one or the other. You're always gonna have a love for film, but if you start having fun and you start like finding more success in something, absolutely go for it, you
Yeah.
know? You were saying earlier that your kids got you involved in it. How did that come about?
So actually, during COVID, we were looking for something for the kids to do, and the local community theater ran an online drama camp. And my daughter was very interested in it. We signed her up, and then like the day before she was going to have her first Zoom camp class, my son's like, "Wait, what is she doing?" My daughter is now 10, and I have two twin 13-year-old boys.
Wow.
Um, so they're like, "Wait, little sister's doing what?" We want to do it too. So we wound up signing all three. They had a blast with it. It was so cool. To hear them or see them doing that. We were kind of like in the other room watching the Zoom performance. It was a lot of fun. But then that group was doing as things got back to normal, they were doing a production of Mary Poppins, and they needed kids to be, the lead characters in it, and also like play various other ensemble roles. And they reached out to my kids and said, "Will you please audition for this? We need kids." And they were like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah, we're gonna do it." And then they're practicing and they're so nervous.
Oh, oh.
And I'm like, look, like I'll do this with you. And I hadn't acted since in middle school. I tried getting into theater, and I auditioned for a part and didn't get it, like didn't get anything. Um, and kind of gave up because if I'm not good, why keep at it? Was what I thought as a dumb middle school kid. So I wound up getting staying involved with stage crew and that kind of thing. But here now, like I don't know, 20 some, almost 30 years later, I'm auditioning for a show and I got a part. And I had a little solo to sing, had some dancing to learn, some acting to do, and it was great. It was a ton of fun. So I went out for another show and another show and another show and just kept going.
I think that's the best way to do it is you find that reason to go for it. And for you, that was your kids. Your kids very
Yeah.
much brought that play aspect out of you. And I think once you find that passionate reason to go into something, you're stuck with it.
I think for me, a huge thing, and that's why like I don't look at it that I got started late, um, because I don't think I could have started any sooner. I wasn't at a point that I was comfortable enough going up on stage and not caring what people thought of me. That was something that came to me later in life, that I could put myself out there and be a character and not care and just have fun with it. Uh, so that's probably what held me back in middle school. And finally, as an old man, I was able to let go of that and get into it.
An old man, how old are you?
I turned 45 on Friday.
Wow, I thought you were a little bit younger than that.
Thank you.
Of
I
course.
appreciate hearing that all the time.
I've come to the realization of exactly that lesson. If you're going into anything, if you're going into any field, you cannot care what people think of you. You
Yeah,
cannot care because the moment you start caring, they sense that. They sense the worry, they sense the nervousness, they sense all of that. And to let that fear go of what other people think of you is the best possible outcome for you
yeah.
as anyone in this industry.
And I think it's challenging because it's something that you have to do over and over again. Um, my the very first thing I did in film and television was a background TV role. And I had no idea. I'd never been on a set. I'd never been in front of a camera. So of course I was nervous, even though I didn't care what people thought. There's all these professional people around me, and I need to do a good job. And oh my God, what am I going to do? What if I look awful and ruin the whole take? All that's still going on.
Of
But then
course.
you've got to just turn it off and do it. And then um, the first role that I got in a film that actually, had lines, I was playing a police captain. And I thought I had it figured out. I thought I was good. This is going to be great. I knew all my lines. I went in there and I was nervous as anything. And fortunately, I had it. The director was great. The director of photography was even better. And they calmed me down. They got me through the first scene. And then the second scene we did much better. No nerves. Like I had it out of the way. I did it. I'm really anxious to see that. It has not come out yet. So I'm anxious to see what they did with my performance in the two different scenes, if my nervousness showed through. The director of photography assured me it wouldn't. He'd be able to cut around it. So we'll see.
You were saying earlier, you actually told me about that project in person. If I
Yeah.
remember correctly, that is a HBO series or an HBO
So
film.
the TV show that I did background on is Task with Mark Ruffalo. That's
Okay.
coming out, I think, September 17th, maybe the 7th, something with a 7. It's coming up very soon. Um, I wound up doing 8 days on that, so I have no idea what scenes, what episodes I'm going to be in. Now, my daughter actually did that as well. She played a child at a park one day. Um, and even that was something that the kids, that once again, got me into. My wife found this listing when I was starting, building my resume, trying to figure out how do you get a headshot, that kind of thing. She found this listing on Facebook. They were looking for a couple to play a prisoner and his wife meeting and their toddler daughter. And she's
Okay.
like, "Hey, do you think Jill can play younger and we can do this as a family?" And Jill was 8 at the time, so we had to laugh. But I looked into the company that made the Facebook post, and turns out they have a whole database of roles that they're trying to fill. So I got us all put in there, and one of the first things that popped up was kids at a birthday party. I'm like, I got kids. They were in the right age range. I submitted them, and they actually reached out that they were interested. They wanted to get the ball rolling on them because there's child labor law paperwork that has to happen.
Of course.
So at that point, I'm like, well, let me do this too. So there was a spot for parents at a birthday party, and I put myself down for that. Well, as these things go, the kids didn't wind up making the cut, but I did. So I went in there to be a parent at a birthday party. And like I said, I'm walking in there. I don't know what I'm doing. And I walk up to the person they told me to talk to for wardrobe, and I had a suitcase full of parent clothes, stuff I would wear to a birthday party because that's what they asked me to bring. And I go up and I open my suitcase, and the wardrobe woman looks at my clothes, looks at me, looks back at my clothes, looks back at me, and says, "No, you're a cop. Come with me." And she puts me in a police officer uniform. And I'm like, okay, cool. I'm a cop now. So I'm here in this uniform hanging out with all the other background actors, and the parents, the people that wound up playing parents, they're all getting into scenes. And I'm just sitting there. They haven't called me. They don't need me for anything. Just waiting, just waiting. And at the end of the day, all the kids got out there and did something. All the parents got out there and did something. And of the 4 people they had as cops, only one of them made it out to shoot. So I'm like, you know what? Like, if they hadn't picked me as a cop, why'd they have to pick me as a cop? This stinks. So I take off my uniform, I hand it back in. I'm like, well, thanks. And they're like, okay, see you tomorrow. And I said, no, I'm only here today. And she's like, oh no, the cops are back the next 2 days and they're overnight shoots. So I go up to a PA and I said, wait, what's going on? I signed up for one day. Oh, no, 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 no. We need you the next 2 days. And what fortunately for me, the cop role was defined as a union position on the show. So I got not that first day, but the next 2 days, I was considered union, even though I'm not. Second thing I've ever done. So the pay was better, all the bonuses, and those next 2 shoots went 12 and 13 hours. So, and they were overnight. So the overtime and the overnight bonuses and all the premiums just added up to like a really nice paycheck, all because she didn't like my kid's birthday party clothes. I don't know how that happened. And then I wound up being there a total of 8 times. Like I said, they called me back to play a cop a few more times. And then one day got rained out, so we had to come back another day. And then the very last day of filming, they had their heaviest background scene of the whole shoot, and they must not have had enough people. Actually, like I said, I got my daughter into it. I got my parents into it. They were called for that last day to be bar patrons. So I'm like, I knew they were doing it. It's like, great, cool. And I got a call like, hey, can you be here in an hour? We need more bar patrons. I said, sure. So I went and I got to be there for the last day of filming. So that was all. It was quite an experience.
It's interesting how a simple situation of not liking a style of clothing could land you a role such as the ones you were given.
Yeah.
I think it's all about timing, number one, who you speak to, number two,
Hmm.
and luck as well.
Yeah.
Without those three things, you would never know where you've gone. You could have just, like you said, you were meant to be there for what, a day, you said?
Yeah.
So you could have been there for just a day and not had this whole extravagant experience that you were given.
Yeah.
And I certainly hope they comped you for stay and everything.
Oh no, it was For staying overnight, it was all local. That was the
Oh, that's
amazing thing.
great.
It was around the corner from I'm an engineer during the day,
Okay.
and it was around the corner from my office. So I worked 2 full days as engineers and or as an engineer, went in at night.
That's
I only got a couple hours of sleep, but yeah. And then the crazy thing is, I mentioned that I was doing a show where my co-stars encouraged me to do this. That show is still going on. It was the Putnam County Spelling Bee. So I think it was Tuesday I went to be the parent, got turned into a cop, and then Wednesday night into Thursday, next 2 nights, I was there as a cop, and then I had to open up, opening night of Putnam County Spelling Bee the next night. So I don't know that I've ever been more tired, but I don't think I've ever been more excited and happy either.
you had quite the adventure that we got.
Yeah. But you know what? That's how it is. For me at least with acting, it all comes in waves. This, like we talked about earlier, I've been really busy in August, and September's looking busy. Um, after we wrapped Are You Worthy, I think I did one thing until like March or April. It was a long time without anything.
And sometimes that's how it goes, right?
Yeah.
You can't say somebody else on one of my podcasts said you can't say no to the work because the instant you say no to the work, that's it. You're kind of just stagnant for a long time. And my advice to people would be this: if you're not able to find work, create work for yourself, you know?
Hmm.
That's why I like these podcasts because I get to talk to people like you, I get to hear your stories, and I get to connect with you guys.
Yeah.
So don't be afraid to look for work and don't be afraid to create work for yourself too,
Yeah.
because you never know where it's going to lead you. One day you could be there for a parent role, and the next thing you know, you're copping a bar patron.
Yeah.
So, that actually kind of leads me to my next question for you. If you could give advice to anyone who wants to get involved into this industry, what would it be?
Go for it.
Go for
I
it.
mean, just do it. And I talk to a lot of people who see me doing it, and I'm not lighting the world on fire. If I wasn't also an engineer, like I would not be alive and living in a house and eating food as an actor. So let's not like I'm not really in a position to give advice, but if you have an interest, try it. And I would say that about anything, whether it's acting or my kids, go for it. Like what's the worst that happens? I send in to jobs and submit my headshot and don't hear back. You get used to that, you know?
Absolutely.
Um, but if you mean like specific to the industry advice, um, I don't want to say it in a derogatory way. Be a good person. Like be a good, responsible person. Show up on time, respect the people on set who are helping you, who are there as part of the team, and just follow instructions. And those three things are everything to get started. And a lot of people have trouble with that. One of the really cool things for me, uh, going back to those first days when I had no idea what I'm doing on the HBO show, I'm I talk to different production assistants, and I keep seeing the same people because it's a small world. And I'll go do a Wawa commercial, and the girl doing she was a just an assistant on there, but she had been doing props on the HBO show. So we talk, and then I get to know the assistant director on that shoot, who turns out to be the assistant director on a commercial that I do 2 months later. And then I just did a project this week where like every single person I've ever met in the industry was there working this shoot. It was so cool to like see these people, and you get to know them. I don't see them a ton. Like it might go months in between I see them, but when I go to check in, they remember my name because I talk to them, because I treat them like people, because I'm interested in what they have to say. And they've got so many more years in the industry than me. Like I'm not going to go in and be like, I'm better than you because I'm an actor and you're a production assistant. Like I can learn from you. Like please talk to me, teach me what I need to know about this industry.
Absolutely. You don't want to shut people out because the instant you shut people out, you're not learning anymore.
Yeah,
You're just going through the motions, and that's not how you get there, you know?
yeah.
Um,
And I mean, I'm sure you work with people who don't have a great attitude and who are difficult to work with. And I've never been on the director side or the producer side or anything like that, but I can't imagine I would ever have somebody back if they act the way I've seen some people act on set.
of course.
You know, and I feel like that has to stick with you because, like I said, these same people are everywhere. It's a small world, and they're going to go on to bigger, better things, and you never know. That's one of the highlights for me is the when I get asked back to something by a director. I did a commercial this week where the the director was telling me on our meal break that there was something screwy with the auditions that like they weren't able to see all the auditions that came in because they had just switched to a new system and it wasn't working right. But he saw my name and he had worked with me before. He's like, "Oh, this guy can do it." So I never even saw my audition tape. But he's like, "But from working with me before, I got the role." And like that is so cool to me when that happens. That like because I say I don't care what people think. But the truth is, I never know that I did a good enough job. So, like that, somebody bringing me back, it's like, yes, I did a good job.
That is amazing. And I kind of understand that feeling because yeah, you don't want to care what people think of you in a negative light, but in a positive light, it
Right.
helps.
Right.
It helps. So you got your role on Are You Worthy, and you became the serial killer who's hunting down this family
Yeah.
of kids, and I'm just somebody who knew the director
Okay.
personally,
Yeah.
and he's followed my work online on YouTube, on Facebook, TikTok, stuff like that for a while. And he just reached out to me and said, "Hey, listen, I know you got this. I know you're good with the
Yeah.
camera. I know you're good with editing. I want your help with this film. Are you up for it?" I was like, "Absolutely. Let's do a movie. Let's make a movie." And through that, I was able to meet you, and you and I got talking, and you've had so many great stories, and I love hearing them. It is such an amazing pleasure getting to talk to people who have the same passion as
Yeah.
you, because that's how you grow. Like, if you're talking to people who don't really understand what your passion is about, you feel kind of stuck. So you kind of have to branch out and you kind of have to make connections in the field that you're
Hmm.
interested in.
Yeah.
You you can't sit there and expect it to fall in your lap. You have to talk to people. That is number one key. I agree with you on that.
Yeah. And it's as somebody, as an actor here in the Philadelphia area, we're not in a huge population where we're surrounded by other actors or other industry people. Um, So there's been a lot of times when like something that I think is cool will happen, and it's like who can I talk to? Because my wife is super supportive, but she doesn't always like get it. My coworkers at my engineering job certainly they don't get it. They think it's neat what I'm doing, but when I've got like, oh, this is really neat because this means this and this means this person saw this, they just like so it's really cool to have people that you can reach out to in the industry who you can say like, "Hey, this happened," and they know exactly what you mean.
Exactly. Like I'll talk to my friends about editing, about camera work, about film work, and
Yeah,
like you were just describing, like completely over the top of their head. They'll act excited,
yeah.
but
Oh, they're happy for you, of course.
yeah, but then 9 out of 10 times the conversation goes back to their big thing is Magic the Gathering. I don't know if you're familiar with the card game.
I played that many many years ago. I always lost. I don't think I won a
I did.
single hand.
Yeah, I am the same as you. And as soon as they go straight back to it, I'm like, oh, okay, I guess the conversation's over.
Yeah,
So you kind of have to branch out and network, and that's kind of what I've been noticing you've been doing as well as what I've been doing over the last year. And I think networking is just the best way to go about it because you never know who you're going to meet. You never know who you're going to interact with, and you never know who you're going to have a scene with.
Yeah,
Um, which kind of leads me to my next question for you. You were telling me earlier that you got into this in middle school, right?
I tried. I failed.
What inspired you to go for that?
My friends were doing it. They were very big into theater. I transferred schools when I went into sixth grade, so I wound up going to a school where I knew nobody. Um, and I went from a very small school to a very big school. The school that I was at had 25 people in my grade, and the school that I went to had 800.
Wow.
So it was a big jump, and with that come a lot of other opportunities. So the school that I was at, like music was 10 minutes a week, if that, whereas when I switched schools, I had the opportunity to join the band and, have 45 minutes a day of music and all that kind of cool stuff. So I met a lot of people who had been doing this, because they started band in fourth grade and they got into theater in fourth and fifth grade. And I'm just like showing up and these are my friends and they're cool. It's like, hey, we're trying out for the show. Aren't you trying out? I'm like, oh, like what's that? And I tried and didn't. But that was what got me into it because I had found a group of friends who thought it was cool and I thought it was cool too. So fortunately, I was able to stay involved with stage crew. I wound up doing lighting, which I absolutely loved doing. And then a few years later, I started being in the pit band. I would play saxophone for the musicals. So my friends were up on stage and I was down below looking up at them. And I was always a little bit jealous, but I tried. I didn't have what it took, and I wasn't at that point. I didn't really understand that like you can get better at almost anything,
Absolutely.
and that's something that really has helped me. And I'm trying to teach my children. I'm trying to set a good example. Going back to that Mary Poppins musical that we did, I had the role of the bank chairman who sings a couple bars, and going into a rehearsal with the music director, she took me aside, sat down at the piano. She's like, "All right, we're going to work on your thing, sing it." And I've been practicing. I was ready, and we sang it through. And she's like, "Okay, you're going to speak sing this. You don't actually have to sing. Just say the words rhythmically." Like, oh, okay, weird. And I thought I was an okay singer. Like this, like shocked me. Um, but then my wife, because she's so supportive, she wound up doing the spotlight during the show, and she all these years later she still does spotlight for any show the kids and I are in. Um, but there was a scene at the end of the show where I actually entered from the back as part of the ensemble, and I'm standing right next to her singing. So she was running spotlight, and she decided to record, and I could hear myself on that recording singing so horribly.
Oh.
And that was like I had no idea I was a bad singer. I didn't think I was great, but I had no idea I was that bad.
Oh no.
And that show ended, and I'm like, you know what? Like I'm not getting any other parts if I don't work on this. So I found a couple options for music teachers. I took a trial lesson with two of them, and I went to one and I sang. And she's like, "You're really good. Like I can get you better, but like you're pretty good." And I went to the trial lesson with the other, and she like stopped playing, stopped me from singing, and said, "You're horrible. Like you can't sing." And I said, "I know. Like, can you fix it?" She's like, "I can, but like we're gonna spend 6 months before you're allowed to sing a word. You're just gonna be like singing sounds to try to learn how to sing." I'm like, "But you can fix it." And she said, "Yes." And I said, "Great, I'm going with you." You know,
That's
and
awesome.
I put in the work, and she called me her most advanced student because in 3 months I was allowed to sing words. But I would spend hours a day on it, and at that point, like I felt like I did okay acting in Mary Poppins. I knew I did horribly singing, um, so I got better, and I got some pretty good roles singing since then. And, then I
That's
realized
awesome.
that my weakness was dancing. So I enrolled in a adult beginner tap class, partly for fun, partly to get better. Because at that point, my acting career was on the stage. Um, so, you know, I wound up having conflicts with dancing and had to miss more classes than I could make because I got a part in another show. But it's just this is what I'm trying to teach my kids that like look at me, like I couldn't do something and now I can. Like something that was a weakness is now an asset. And you can do that too. Like you're not the best on your baseball team. Let's go practice. Let's go throw the ball 200 times tonight. Like you can get there. You can work on it and get better at anything.